Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello and welcome to this cheekily named episode, What Bros and Dudes Don't Want You to Know. Now, let me first start out by letting you know that I named this podcast so that you would giggle over bros and dudes as I'm doing. And I also want to be real clear about who I mean by the bros and dudes. So who I mean by the bros and dudes are almost like that archetype, right? Of the guy who the system works for. The guy who, in our case, right, about academia, that the culture of academia favors this person naturally. This person is not actually a person, right? It's an archetype or a stereotype, right? But this person, metaphorical person, doesn't have any friction with the system. The person knows the system, knows how to work the system. The system was built for the bros and dudes. Okay, so just to be super clear too, the bros and dudes don't actually even have to be, cis hetero white males. You could be some other identity and be acting like a bro and dude. So I want you to giggle at the term bros and dudes and understand what I mean is that person or stereotypical person that the institution works for and that the institution was built for. So having said that, let's go. Now, before I dig into the 5 things that the bros and dudes don't want you to know about academia, I want to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by our Amplify Faculty Writing Accelerator. Now, Amplify is a 6-month coaching program for people who identify as women who are on the early career stage on the tenure track. In Amplify, we've served almost 50 women in the past 2 years that we've been running this program. And for 2021, we are refreshing the content and we're updating the format of the program into a 6-month program that will run September 2021 to February 2022. Amplify is for women who want to go up for tenure with confidence because they know that they have all the skills and tools and the mindset they need to keep their publication pipelines flowing and to have a resilient writing practice. So if you fall into that category of early career on the tenure track and you are looking to do academia differently, to do it on your terms and to design your career, then I would like to extend a special invitation to our info session. On June 23rd at noon Eastern, we will be holding an info session where we're going to show you our Amplify framework for going up for tenure with confidence. That is the core basis of the program. So you'll learn the 3 main things you need to focus on in order to improve your pre-tenure experience. And you'll learn all the ins and outs of the program, everything that includes, and we'll feature some superstar case studies of students who have taken the program. Now, go ahead and find the link in the show notes to sign up for the info session today, and I'll see you on June 23rd. Okay, let's get started. 5 things the bros and dudes don't want you to know about academia. Number 1. You don't have to do it like they do in order to be successful. One of the best kept secrets of academia is that there is more than one way to be successful. The culture of academia doesn't want you to think that. The culture of academia presents to you a very patriarchal, racist, ableist idea of what it takes to succeed inside of these institutions that weren't created for you. But I know, and we know from working with clients, particularly in our Amplify program, that you don't have to do it that way to be successful. You don't have to buy into the culture of overwork. You don't have to accept without questioning that women take on, and especially women from marginalized communities and underrepresented women in academia, take on more service than their male counterparts. You don't have to accept that way in order to be successful. There are other ways. And how we talk about that over here is that you can design your career. The key to that, according to me, and what we teach in our programs, is putting writing at the center. If you come to our info session about Amplify, you'll learn more about that. But what I want you to know here is that there are multiple paths to success, and you get to choose the one that you take. You get to choose the way you live out your academic life and design your academic career. There is not just one way, even though the patriarchy presents it as if there is. Okay, thing number 2 that the bros and dudes don't want you to know. You have more power than you think to change your career. So I like to talk about this concept of career design. And what that really means is having intentionality in your career and really stepping into power around the decisions you make related to your career. And those powerful decisions help you design how your career goes and also design your experience of living out your career. Because let's face it, work is what you do most of the time of your working years, right? And so you don't just want it to be something you survive. You want it to be something you enjoy. You want it to be something that fills your cup, that stimulates you. And so you need to make choices that will make that happen for you. So I'm going to give you some simple examples of having more power than you think. A lot of times, especially in early career, we are just so thankful that we got a job that we're afraid to ask for the things we need to help us to be successful at that job. So I just want to acknowledge before I go on that absolutely the process of asking for what you need and kind of making noise about how things need to change for you in your career absolutely differs depending on your identity within different academic spaces. And so I'm not saying that everybody has equal access to the level of career design that I'm talking about. And so that is a big reason that the culture of academia needs to change. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I understand, and you all should understand that not everybody has that. You know, it's not as easy for you, for example, if you're a graduate student, to ask for the teaching schedule that you need in order to be successful in your writing. Or if you're contingent faculty, it is much more difficult to have sway over and power over things like scheduling. So I just want to acknowledge that before I go on. Now I'll tell the story about how when I first started on the tenure track, I was just so grateful to have gotten a job that was really afraid to ask for changes in my job. The classic example that I am always talking about is that when I first got hired, I had a 4-4 course load, but I had a course release in order to be what they were calling like the technology coordinator. And I thought, and it was presented to me during the interview experience, that the technology coordinator would help faculty develop technology-enhanced teaching, right? But what it actually turned out to be was managing the checkout process for our 3 LCD projectors that were supposed to be enough LCD projectors for our 20 classrooms. And it was hearing about how people couldn't get the printer to work, or that they couldn't connect to the internet and those kinds of things. It was really more of like a technician type of position, or that's how maybe it had been in the past, and that's how people saw my role. So needless to say, I was like, this stinks and is not what I signed up for. I don't even have the time to do those kinds of workshops and educational technology things that I thought I was hired to do. But I was afraid. I was actually afraid I was going to lose my job. Like, I was afraid that, if I went to my chair with this, that the chair would say, well, that's what we hired you for, so you have to do it. And that I was going to be stuck in this job that I really, really didn't like. So the have more power than you think part comes from I was really scared to suggest that I step out of this role. And it took me a year at least to really be able to go and say like, hey, I think this is not for me. But when I did, I had an open and honest conversation with my chair, and he was like, it's no problem. You won't have the course release, but that's fine. We'll find somebody else to do it. Like, it was amazing that I was able to make such an impactful change on my everyday life simply by having that conversation. So that's just one example of maybe having more power than you think. A lot of times there's this culture even in our departments or in our universities that say like, don't ask for stuff, there's no money, or don't complain, or people are going to think that you are a squeaky wheel. And I really want you to understand, and the bros and dudes don't want you to understand, that you have the power to push back and, make your experience of having a career in academia be what you need it to be in order to be successful. All right. Thing number 3 that the bros and dudes don't want you to know, that they rely on communities too. Oh my gosh, there is this archetype, of the lone wolf professor in the tweed jacket with the elbow patches. And he stays up all hours and he's doing it for the love of knowledge and all of this. And of course, even saying that, which is so ridiculous, when you think about it, if that person has children, somebody else is watching the children. If that person is really, burning the midnight oil, reading and having deep thoughts, someone else is feeding that person. So besides the fact that also that person is probably in community over ideas, right? They're part of a professional organizations. They have colleagues, they have students. So this idea that you have to do everything by yourself, right? Or that the successful academic doesn't need help of community is just wrong. So the bros and dudes might be out there looking like they're doing it by themselves, but they're not. They need communities too, right? So that's something that's super important inside of academia, is finding like-minded people, finding support systems around you. And again, I'll mention that a big part of our Amplify program is developing peer mentorship relationships. And that is huge inside of our program. So if you are looking for community inside of Amplify, that's something that's very important to us, and that our program is set up to foster those peer mentorship relationships. But whether you do it through a program or through connecting with people in other ways, of course, you're going to rely on community, and that's going to really help you be successful, especially in your early career, because it makes you feel like you're not alone, because you're not alone. Okay, thing number 4 that the bros and dudes don't want you to know about academia. People will respect you when they see you making boss moves in your career. Now, not everyone, of course. Just as powerful women have always attracted people to them, right? And garnered respect from some people, they have also turned people away from them and, have made enemies along the way. But that shouldn't stop you from making boss moves. And what I mean by boss moves are doing those things in your career that are pro you, right? Putting boundaries around your writing time, putting boundaries around all your time, saying no to things, doing those things that are really what need to be done in order for you to kind of live out your fullest potential and have the most satisfying career that you can have. When people see you doing that, a lot of times we think, oh, they're going to think that I'm selfish or that I'm too ambitious in the way that women can be too ambitious, right? But really what will happen with a lot more people than you think is that people will respect you. And what you will teach people around you is how to treat you, right? which is that they will respect your boundaries when you start to put some up. And you're also going to be teaching the students around you how it is possible to act inside of academia. You don't have to be the martyr who is always too busy and is always overworked and is just barely scraping by. You can be a powerful academic with boundaries who has set up her career in a way that makes it satisfying, that makes it not compete so much with taking care of herself, taking care of other people, if that's what you do. So people will respect you when they see you making boss moves, and some people won't, and that's okay. Those people are going to get left behind, and they are not going to be able to keep up with you, and they are not the people that you're trying to make the boss moves for, right? Okay. We are all the way at thing number 5, and maybe this is the most important one. So thing number 5 of what the bros and dudes don't want you to know about academia is that you can learn and grow and develop. You don't have to figure out how to navigate academia alone. And also, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So again, back to this kind of lone wolf archetype, inside of academia, or this idea that you do things without community. Of course you do things in community, and there are ways to learn how to manage your academic life better. And when I mean better for you. I don't think that there is one way to create the academic life that you want or to design that career that you want. There are multiple paths, but there is insider knowledge that you can learn that will help you to do academia on your terms. And of course, that's what we teach inside of our programs, particularly inside of the Amplify program. So again, whenever I mention my programs on this podcast, I also want to mention ways that you can do, potentially get the same results or maybe similar results without a program, right? Because programs are for some people and not for others, right? Again, if you would like to know whether Amplify is the program for you, please go to the show notes and sign up for our info session on June 23rd. There you'll get all the information you need. But I also want to say that there is now a growing number of books that you can read, right? That are helpful in having you reflect on your career. I mention the same ones all the time. Do I need to keep mentioning them? I'm going to mention them again. So I love, in general, for kind of self-coaching, Playing Big by Tara Moore. The other one I love for just really understanding your role in academia is The Slow Professor by Maggie Berg and Barbara K. Sieber. Even though it's written by a dude, I also like and do recommend Deep Work by Cal Newport. You can take some of the things with a grain of salt, but I think overall it's a helpful thought exercise. And I also recommend Finish by John Acuff, also a dude. But not, maybe not, they're not dudes in like that bros and dudes sense, maybe. I don't know. You can decide. So those are some books that I recommend everyone read. But really what I want you to take away from this last, thing number 5 that the bros and dudes don't want you to know is that you don't have to figure things out on your own. And that there should be like a meta level to your career, right? There's the everyday thing that you're doing, right? There's your everyday academic life. You sit at your desk, you do these things, you're in the lab, you do these things, right? You teach these classes, you mentor these students, like the everyday. And there should be a meta level that you all should be thinking about, which is, how can I do this better? What are the parts I don't like? Right? Remember the 90% Awesome podcast. Like, how can you make your everyday life full of 90% of things that you really, really want to do? Instead of Like, oh, I'm hanging on to this 20% of things I want to do, and most of my day is spent doing things I don't want to do. So that meta level, partially listening to this podcast is you operating on that meta level. It's that reflection that's necessary for, the well-lived life, right? And if you feel like you don't have time to do that, that's a big signal that this is exactly what you need to do. You really need to take a step back, learn better ways, reflect on your ways, figure out who you really are and how you really work. And of course, I'm sorry, I have to say it again, that is the work we do inside of our Amplify program. That's why it's a coaching program, right? And not a course. So there's training in it, but there's also coaching and community. And the most powerful part, I think, is the coaching part, the group coaching when we're all together, that community that you develop. Of course, if you come to our Amplify info session, we're going to go over all the modules so that you can see what you learn in the training. But that's not the most important part. The secret is that the most important part are actually those group calls, truthfully, where you are developing those peer mentoring relationships and hearing the experiences of other people. So to wrap up this episode, the 5 things the bros and dudes don't want you to know about academia are, number 1, you don't have to do it like they do it to be successful. You can create your own path. Number 2, you have more power than you think. Number 3, they rely on communities too. Number 4, people will respect you when they see you making boss moves. And number 5, you can learn and grow and develop. You don't have to figure out everything on your own or reinvent the wheel. There are programs to help you. I hope you take these 5 things and reflect on them, right? Go to that meta level, in your career. And if you are interested, I would love to see you on June 23rd for our Amplify info session. Go find the link in the show notes and sign up. I'll see you there. I'm so honored that you spent your valuable time listening to this episode. Thank you. Before I go, I want to ask you, do you have an almost done article languishing in a virtual drawer? How about a new writing project that you just haven't been able to make the time to start yet? How about a piece of writing in the messy middle that you need to revive? Well, I've got the solution for you, Writing Sprint Blueprint. The Writing Sprint Blueprint is a powerful productivity tool for overwhelmed academics who want to get stalled out publications out of their pipelines and into the world. And it's only $27. And when you grab Writing Sprint Blueprint, you'll get my private motivational podcast feed called Stick to the Plan. It's 10 mini episodes of around a minute each that you can listen to right from your favorite podcast app to motivate you during your writing sprint. So what are you waiting for? Follow the link in the show notes to get Writing Sprint Blueprint today. I'll see you inside.